To date, we don't know a better way to relive those childhood retro memories than to go visit an arcade. The lights, the sounds, the gameplay. If only we could relive these memories at home with our own arcade machine. However, most of us don't have the space. Approximately a year ago, we visited one of our local Cotton On stores and were surprised to see that they were selling mini arcade machines. The console itself was okay to say the least, and was really lacking in the game department. But we had a thought. Was it possible to put a Gameboy inside a mini arcade machine? After some basic planning, we turned to our number one retro gaming substitute, the DS Lite motherboard. We decided to use the DS Lite internals for a few simple reasons. The form factor, it's cost effective, simple to use, easy to mod, can be upgraded, plays a variety of consoles, and has a backlit screen. So after stripping the DS Lite console down to its bare essentials, we started opening the mini arcade machine. As expected, the internals housed only basic electronics, of which most would have to be removed. As we wanted the mini arcade machine to look as close to factory as possible, we set about planning what had to be kept and what parts had to be removed. Upon initial inspection, the power switch, speaker, and controls could be retained and possibly even reused. So we set about desoldering these components from the original electronics. Once these components were removed and salvaged, the next part of the build process involved removing the original 2.4-inch screen and replacing it with the 3-inch from the DS Lite. After test fitting the 3-inch screen, it was apparent that the shell had to be trimmed. So we delicately used our Stanley knife to cut out a 3-inch opening for the original backlit screen from the Nintendo DS. After patiently cutting out the opening, it was now time to test fit the LCD screen once again. Once happy with the opening, the screen was fastened in place and the original screen bezel was used as a finish. We then set our focus on the rear of the shell. Firstly, we removed the original battery terminals and machined the compartment to fit the original DS Lite battery. As this console was going to be rechargeable, just like the original DS, we machined out a hole for a more modern USB-C terminal, which was located on the rear of the console. As we intended this mini arcade machine to emulate a number of retro consoles, we had to create a factory-look set of trigger buttons, which would be located on the rear of the console. Our idea was to use two 8mm tactile buttons mounted to an electronic circuit board, which would be screwed to the rear of the console. To make life easier with this build, we tried to salvage as many original components as possible, one being the directional board. As this console used basic electronics, it was easy to decipher which terminals were the directional, A and B buttons, and select start buttons. We then went about soldering wires from the directional board, which would be then soldered to the DS Lite motherboard. The remainder of the build involved finishing off the soldering, updating the electronics with custom firmware capable of screen swapping capability, mounting the motherboard, and reassembling the console back to its factory look. If you're enjoying this video, now's the perfect time to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for your support. Almost a year has passed and over 230,000 views on our Instagram channel when we first published this proof of concept design for a mini arcade machine with Gameboy internals. Due to its popularity, we finally decided to create a full-length video of this build. Originally, we were waiting for one-off printed graphics for this mini arcade machine, however, they never arrived. So we decided enough time has passed to create a full-length video of this build for our followers to enjoy. As previously mentioned, the console features Nintendo DS Lite internals as well as the original backlit screen. With some basic soldering, we managed to retain the original control keys as well as the speaker. The original DS Lite cartridge slot was mounted to the right-hand side of the console and features an R4 flash card. We managed to fabricate a pair of tactile trigger buttons for the rear of the console, installed the rechargeable battery, and added a more modern USB-C charging port. With the addition of the R4 flash cartridge and updated firmware, the console is capable of playing all your favourite Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, NES, Super Nintendo, Atari 600, and PC Engine, just to name a few. With upgraded firmware and functionality of the top left-hand button, screen swapping capability has been enabled, so you can play some of your DS games, which include Mario, Tetris, and Mortal Kombat, just to name a few. We can appreciate that most of our viewers may have limited financial and space constraints, so this build would be a perfect solution for your needs. With some basic electronic and soldering knowledge, we hope we've inspired you to build your own mini arcade machine. If you're after another retro fix, don't forget to check out our Instagram and YouTube pages. Stay safe.